Now, rumors of a Hellraiser remake/reboot have persisted within horror circles for years, especially when you look at the current state of the Hellraiser franchise. Though I didn't watch the original until decades after its original release, I can definitely see why the franchise has continued so long despite every subsequent sequel falling victim to the law of diminishing returns. But the original 1987 film did leave quite a mark, especially when you consider that it was the directorial debut of author Clive Barker, who was adapting his own novella, The Hellbound Heart, as source material for the film. Most notably, the film also gave horror fans a new icon of worship with Pinhead, easily one of the most visually striking horror movie antagonists in the genre's history up until that point. So, it's no surprise that we're now hearing reports that a Hellraiser remake is finally moving forward, with reports stating that David S. Goyer is going to be writing the screenplay in addition to being a producer on the film. Now, I can already hear fans collectively groaning at this news, and it's not completely unwarranted. Goyer tends to be hit and miss as a screenwriter, and virtually all miss as a director. Like, seriously, this man should not even be trusted to direct traffic. So it stands to reason that Goyer is only as good as the directors that he's paired with. So, depending on who the studio decides to hire as a director, the end result could range anywhere between a monumental disaster and something that actually ends up doing Clive Barker's source material justice. So here are 5 directors that I think could actually make magic out of whatever David S. Goyer puts on the page. They don't call these ladies the Twisted Twins for nothing. The two have made a name for themselves, championing the rise of women in horror behind the camera, and they have a sizable filmography of short films as well as features to back it up. Furthermore, both the film and the original text focus very heavily on the female characters in the story. Even Pinhead is described in The Hellbound Heart as either androgynous or inherently female. So having female directors at the helm would be a step in the right direction to making sure that these characters have as authentic a voice as possible. And if you've seen the Soska Sisters' 2012 film American Mary, you know that they're not particularly squeamish about the level of gore that would be necessary to make a good Hellraiser film. Now, I would have loved if Jordan Peele had tapped Kasi Lemmons to direct his upcoming reboot of Candyman, another Clive Barker adaptation, but I would also be more than happy if she were in the running for this new Hellraiser film. So much of what makes Hellraiser work is the dynamic between some of the characters and some of the more salacious and provocative elements of that story that drive their motivations. The affair between the characters of Frank and Julia is the catalyst for every major story element that comes about, and there's a great deal of dramatic tension that Kasi Lemmons can tackle effortlessly. Primarily special effects artists, Kostansky and Gillespie have also dabbled in writing and directing with films like Manborg, Father's Day, and most notably The Void. Having directors with extensive backgrounds in makeup and creature effects would be a major get, especially when you consider how bad the makeup for Pinhead has gotten in the most recent sequels to the original film. The Void especially was an ambitious feat for the duo, and could serve as the perfect example for a possible direction for a Hellraiser remake to take. The original already subverted our ideas of heaven and hell and eternal torment in such a way as to frighten viewers, but also leave them scratching their heads. The Void is already a film that leans so heavily into the metaphysical realm, and it would be interesting to see if that approach could work for a property like Hellraiser. What I really love about Kitamura as a director is how he manages to be flashy and yet tangible. There's an elegance to how he shows the gore in his films, but also a brutal, visceral quality that can sometimes be nauseating while still keeping audiences engaged. Having already directed an adaptation of a Clive Barker story with The Midnight Meat Train, we saw how he brings artistry to the brutality in a way that feels both satisfying and painful. For a story like Hellraiser, where the Cenobites believe that pleasure and pain are intertwined, that can be a delicate balance to strike, and I feel like Kitamura would be one of the best at pulling this off. Admittedly, this is an unorthodox choice. Green started out in the business with dramatic indie films like George Washington, All the Real Girls, and Undertow, but he's made a bigger name for himself with his comedy work, often collaborating with Danny McBride on projects like Eastbound and Down, Vice Principals, Pineapple Express, and Your Highness. But it's always fun to see a director work outside of their comfort zone and ultimately surprise audiences with their ability to take on a completely different genre than what they're usually known for. Many of us were certainly blown away by Green's work on the sequel to arguably one of the greatest slasher films of all time, Halloween. The film actually kind of feels like a remake itself at times, just in the way that Green was able to recontextualize certain scenes from Carpenter's original film, and did so in such a way as to drive the story forward and feel like a natural continuation. And if nothing else, it would be great to see him cast Danny McBride as the hobo at the end of the film who picks up the Lament Configuration puzzle box before turning into a ginormous bone dragon and flying away. Don't act like you don't want to see that. Hey guys, thanks for watching as always. If you agree or disagree with any of my choices, please go ahead and leave some comments for me in the section below. You can also go ahead and hit that like button. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and family, and if you'd like to keep up to date on more at random videos, you can do so by clicking the subscribe button right over here.